The morning dew still clung to the wildflowers when Lily Jenkins gathered her basket and stepped out into the crisp Appalachian air. At just 11 years old, she moved with the confidence of someone who knew the mountains as intimately as she knew the lines of her own palm. Tucked between the rolling hills of rural West Virginia, the small community of Harper's Hollow existed almost separate from time, preserved like the herbs Lily's mother hung to dry from the wooden beams of their modest cabin. "Don't wander too far today," called Martha Jenkins from the doorway, her hands dusted with flour from the morning's baking. "Your father needs help with the tobacco sorting before sundown." Lily nodded, the familiar weight of responsibilities settling comfortably on her slender shoulders. Her mother, known throughout 3 counties for her medicinal knowledge, had been training Lily in the art of healing since she could walk. Martha's reputation as a folk healer had sustained their family through even the harshest winters, when her father's tobacco farm struggled under the weight of poor harvests and mounting debts. "I'm just going to check on Mrs. Wilson's arthritis tea," Lily replied, adjusting her worn denim overalls. "Sam's coming too." As if summoned by his name, her 14-year-old brother appeared from behind the smokehouse, a fishing rod in one hand and a jar of worms in the other. Samuel Jenkins was the mirror image of their father, tall for his age, with a quiet determination etched into the set of his jaw. "Thought we might catch dinner while we're out," Sam said with a grin that always made their mother sigh about how much trouble that smile would cause one day. The siblings set off down the well-worn path that snaked through the property, past fields where tobacco plants struggled against the increasingly infertile soil. Their father, Thomas Jenkins, was a proud man, descended from 6 generations of farmers, but the changing economy and competition from large agricultural corporations had left him fighting an uphill battle to keep their land. Lily knew things were harder than her parents let on. She'd overheard whispered conversations late at night about bank notices and missed payments. She'd noticed how her mother took on more healing clients, how her father's shoulders seemed to stoop lower with each passing season. "Do you think Pa's gonna have to sell part of the east field?" Sam asked as they crossed the small stream that marked the boundary of their property. Lily shook her head. He'd sooner sell his own soul than Jenkins' land. The gathering took longer than expected. Lily insisted on explaining to Sam the properties of each plant she collected, which could reduce fever, which could soothe a cough, which could help a new mother produce milk. Her knowledge, learned at her mother's side, was extensive for someone so young. "You should be a real doctor someday," Sam said, watching his sister's nimble fingers sort through leaves and roots. "Go to college and everything." Lily smiled, though the idea seemed as distant as the moon. No one from Harper's Hollow went to college. Most girls married young, raised families, and lived out their days within sight of the mountains that had witnessed their birth. It was nearly noon when they returned to find an unfamiliar collection of vehicles parked in front of their home. Sleek black SUVs with tinted windows seemed absurdly out of place against the weathered backdrop of their farmhouse. "Who do you reckon that is?" Sam whispered, slowing his pace. Through the open door, they could see their parents seated at the kitchen table with 3 strangers. One man, dressed in an expensive suit that seemed at odds with the dusty surroundings, dominated the conversation. His voice carried across the yard, deep, authoritative, and tinged with an accent that Lily couldn't quite place. "That's Reverend James Maxwell," Sam said, recognition dawning on his face. "From that big church in Charleston, the one they show on TV sometimes." Lily had heard of the charismatic preacher who had built a religious empire from a humble beginning. His television ministry reached into homes across the country, and rumors of his wealth and influence had penetrated even Harper's Hollow. The siblings hesitated at the edge of the yard, but their mother spotted them and waved them in. Reluctantly, Lily followed Sam into the house, the weight of her gathering basket suddenly uncomfortable in her hands. "These are our children," Thomas Jenkins said, an unusual formality in his tone. "Samuel and Lily." The preacher turned, and Lily felt the full force of his attention like a physical weight. James Maxwell was not what she had expected. Television had not captured the imposing presence of the man, the almost magnetic quality that seemed to draw everyone in the room toward him. He was in his 50s, silver hair impeccably styled, his face tanned and lined in a way that suggested authority rather. than age. "The children of the valley," he said, his voice warm with approval. "Your father has told me about your special gifts, young lady." Lily clutched her basket tighter. She didn't like the way he said special gifts, as though her knowledge of plants was some kind of mystical power rather than years of careful learning. "Reverend Maxwell has a retreat center up near the state park," her father explained. "He's looking for local specialists in native plants and traditional remedies for a new healing program they're starting." The preacher nodded. "We believe in honoring the wisdom God has placed in these mountains and in families like yours. We're willing to pay generously for your mother's expertise and yours as you grow older." Something in his smile made Lily take a small step back. There was nothing overtly threatening about it, yet she felt as though she were being measured, evaluated like one of her herbs for its potential usefulness. "It would be a blessing for our community," her mother added, and Lily noticed the hope in her voice. "The Reverend's organization has offered to help refinance our loan with the bank." That explained her parents' eagerness. Financial salvation wrapped in spiritual purpose, a combination nearly impossible to resist for a family on the brink of losing everything. Over the next few weeks, Reverend Maxwell became a frequent visitor to Harper's Hollow. His generosity extended beyond the Jenkins family. He donated new hymnals to the local church, funded repairs for the community center, and offered scholarships for youth summer camps. With each act of charity, his status in the community rose. Lily observed it all with growing unease. There was something calculated about his benevolence, something that reminded her of the sweetened tinctures her mother prepared to mask the bitter taste of medicine. Yet she seemed to be the only one who noticed. Even Sam had been won over when the Reverend had taken a special interest in his talent for woodworking. One evening, as Lily helped her mother prepare dinner, she finally voiced her concerns. "Why does Reverend Maxwell look at me that way, Mama?" Martha paused in her chopping. "What way, child? Like he's waiting for something, like I'm special," her mother finished for her. "Because you are. The Reverend recognizes gifts when he sees them. He believes you have a calling." Lily frowned. "I don't want a calling. I just want to learn about plants and help people here." Martha sighed, setting down her knife. "Lily, you need to understand our situation. Your father, we're in real trouble with the bank. The Reverend's offer could save this farm, save everything your ancestors built." "What offer?" Lily asked, a cold feeling settling in her stomach. Her mother wouldn't meet her eyes. "He wants you to come study at his retreat center, learn from the best healers he can bring in. You'd live there, get a proper education. It's an opportunity, Lily, one that could help our whole family." Outside, the sun dipped behind the mountains, casting long shadows across the kitchen. Lily stood perfectly still, understanding for the first time that childhood, like daylight, could end more suddenly than one might expect. The late summer heat pressed down on Harper's Hollow like a heavy blanket, but inside the Jenkins household, the atmosphere was even more stifling. 2 weeks had passed since Martha's revelation about Reverend Maxwell's plans for Lily, and the family existed in a state of unspoken tension. Thomas spent longer hours in the fields, returning home only after dark. Martha threw herself into preparing remedies, filling more orders than usual. And Sam. Sam watched his sister with a growing concern that matched her own quiet dread. "You don't have to go," he told her one afternoon, as they sat by the creek, toes dipped in the cool running water. "We can figure something else out." Lily tossed a pebble into the water, watching the ripples spread outward. "Like what?" "Pa won't take charity and the bank won't give more time." The harsh truth hung between them. The previous night, their parents had finally sat them down and explained the full extent of their financial troubles. The farm was 3 payments behind, and the bank had given them a final notice. Without immediate intervention, the land that had been in the Jenkins family for generations would be auctioned off by the end of the month. "It's just for a year," Lily said, more to convince herself than her brother. "Mama said I can come home for Christmas and holidays." Sam's jaw tightened in a way that reminded her of their father. Something's not right about him, about any of this. Before Lily could respond, the sound of vehicles coming up the drive reached them. They exchanged a glance before scrambling to their feet and racing back toward the house. Reverend Maxwell had arrived with an entourage, his personal assistant, his driver, and a woman he introduced as Dr. Eleanor. Winters, the director of education at his retreat center, called Harmony Hills. The doctor was a surprise, a poised, elegant woman who spoke to Lily directly rather than talking over her head to her parents. "I understand you have quite a gift for botanical medicine," Dr. Winters said, her voice cultured yet warm. "We have an extensive greenhouse and gardens at Harmony Hills. I think you'll find it quite fascinating." Lily studied the woman carefully. Unlike the Reverend, whose charm seemed practiced and precise, Dr. Winters appeared genuinely interested in her knowledge. "Will there be other children there?" "Children?" Lily asked. Something flickered across Dr. Winters' face, so quickly Lily almost missed it. "A few select students, all with special talents and potential, like yourself." The kitchen had been transformed into an impromptu conference room with papers spread across the worn wooden table. Thomas Jenkins looked uncomfortable in his Sunday shirt, buttoned tight around his neck. "We've drawn up the scholarship agreement," Reverend Maxwell explained, sliding a thick document toward Lily's. "Parents. As discussed, Lily will reside at Harmony Hills for her educational development. In exchange, our foundation will handle the outstanding mortgage payments and provide an annual stipend to your family." Martha's hands trembled slightly as she reached for the papers. "And Lily will be well taken care of, safe?" "My dear lady," the Reverend replied, his voice dripping with reassurance, "she will be treated like my own daughter. Harmony Hills is a sanctuary, the finest accommodations, excellent education, spiritual guidance. Lily's gifts will be nurtured and celebrated." As the adults continued discussing details, Lily slipped outside, needing air. The familiar landscape of the farm, the sloping hills, the weathered barn, the tobacco fields stretching toward the tree line, suddenly seemed precious in a way she'd never fully appreciated before. The thought of leaving knotted her stomach. Sam found her sitting on the porch steps. "They're almost done in there," he said, dropping down beside her. "The Reverend wants to take you back with them today, to get settled before their program starts next week." Lily's head snapped up. "Today? But I haven't packed or said goodbye to anyone or—" "Mama's putting some things together for you now," Sam interrupted, his voice tight. "Pa signed the papers." The world seemed to tilt beneath her. She had known this was coming, but somehow the reality of it, the immediacy, left her breathless. "I don't want to go," she whispered. Sam wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "I know, but it's not forever, Lilypad, and I'll come visit as soon as they let me." Inside, activity buzzed as Martha frantically packed a suitcase with Lily's meager belongings. Dr. Winters offered gentle suggestions about what might be needed, while the Reverend conversed with Thomas in low, serious tones about the financial arrangements. When it was time to leave, Lily stood frozen in the center of the kitchen, unable to process that this moment, this ordinary Tuesday afternoon, was the dividing line between her childhood and whatever came next. "You'll write to us," Martha said, her eyes bright with unshed tears as she pressed a small leather-bound book into Lily's hands. "I've put my best recipes in here so you don't forget." Thomas knelt down, his weathered hands gripping Lily's shoulders. "You be strong now. Make us proud. This is a sacrifice, but it's also an opportunity." Sam was the last to say goodbye, pulling her into a fierce hug. "Remember everything," he whispered in her ear, "and trust your gut, not just what they tell you." Then she was being led to the largest of the black SUVs, her small suitcase loaded by the driver, a gentle hand on her back guiding her inside. As the vehicle pulled away, Lily pressed her face against the window, watching her family and her home grow smaller until the winding road took them from view. The drive to Harmony Hills took nearly 3 hours, winding through increasingly remote mountain roads. Dr. Winters sat beside Lily in the back seat, occasionally pointing out interesting landmarks, while the Reverend rode in a separate vehicle ahead of them. "It's normal to feel nervous, Dr. Mom," Winters said when Lily had been silent for nearly an hour. "Change is difficult, especially at your age." Lily fidgeted with the hem of her dress, her best one hastily changed into before departure. "How many other students will be there?" "Currently 7, Dr. Winters replied. Ages 12 to 17, each selected for their unique abilities and potential contributions. Contributions to what? Dr. Winters smiled enigmatically. To the future Reverend Maxwell envisions, a community of exceptional individuals, bringing traditional knowledge and modern faith together. As they crested a final mountain pass, Harmony Hills came into view. Lily's eyes widened. She had expected something like a church camp or a small retreat center. What sprawled across the landscaped valley below was more akin to a small college campus or exclusive resort. Elegant buildings of stone and glass were arranged around manicured gardens. A large central structure dominated the complex, its modern architecture softened by climbing vines and natural materials. Beyond the main buildings, Lily could see extensive greenhouses, a small lake, and what appeared to be private residences scattered throughout. The wooded property. Welcome to your new home, Dr. Winters said, as the gates opened automatically to admit their convoy. The SUV followed a curved driveway to the main building's entrance, where staff in crisp uniforms waited to greet them. Lily clutched her suitcase, suddenly aware of how shabby her belongings must appear in these surroundings. A young woman with a clipboard approached. Ms. Jenkins, I'm Naomi, your residential advisor. I'll show you to your quarters and help you get settled. Lily looked back at Dr. Winters, reluctant to be separated from the only person she knew. Go ahead, Dr. Winters encouraged. I'll check in with you at dinner. Naomi will take good care of you until then. Naomi led her through arched hallways with polished floors and artwork on the walls. Unlike the formal, imposing exterior, the interior spaces were designed with warmth, natural materials, comfortable seating areas, and large windows that brought the outside in. The girls' residential wing is this way, Naomi explained, guiding her down a corridor. You'll have your own room but shared common spaces. The other girls are in afternoon classes now, but you'll meet them at dinner. Lily's room was larger than her bedroom at home, furnished with a canopy bed, a desk, bookshelves, and a window, seat overlooking the gardens. An adjoining bathroom gleamed with fixtures she was almost afraid to touch. These are for you, Naomi said, opening the closet to reveal several new outfits, all in Lily's size. Reverend Maxwell ensures all students are provided with appropriate attire. Your class schedule is on the desk, but you won't start formal lessons until Monday. This week is for adjustment and orientation. After Naomi left, Lily sat on the edge of the bed, running her hand over the smooth, expensive-feeling comforter. Everything was beautiful, pristine, perfect, and utterly foreign. She moved to the window seat, watching as the sun began its descent behind the mountains. The same mountains that surrounded Harper's Hollow, yet somehow these felt like different mountains entirely. She pressed her mother's recipe book to her chest and allowed herself for the first time that day to cry. Dinner was served in a dining hall that resembled an upscale restaurant more than a cafeteria. Lily, dressed in one of the new outfits, a simple blue dress that felt strangely formal, was introduced to the other students. They were a diverse group, but all shared a certain poise that made Lily acutely aware of her rural mannerisms and accent. There were two other girls close to her age, Zoe, a serious 13-year-old who specialized in mathematics, and Abigail, a cheerful 12-year-old who had been at Harmony Hills for nearly a year already. The older students included twin brothers known for their musical abilities, a teenage girl who rarely spoke, but could apparently predict weather patterns with uncanny accuracy, and a 17-year-old boy named Elijah who sat at the Reverend's table like an honored guest. Dr. Winters kept her promise, joining Lily for part of the meal and helping facilitate conversations. Reverend Maxwell made a grand entrance halfway through dinner, moving from table to table, greeting each student personally, but spending extra time with Elijah and the quiet, weather-predicting girl. He'll get to you eventually, Abigail whispered to Lily. New students always get special attention at first. The way she said it, with a mixture of envy and warning, sent a chill down Lily's spine. As if on cue, the Reverend approached their table, his presence causing the conversations around them to hush. Lily Jenkins, he said, placing a hand on her shoulder that felt heavier than it should have. "How are you finding your first day at Harmony Hills?" "It's very nice, sir," she replied automatically. He smiled, seemingly pleased with her deference. "I have great plans for you, young lady. Great plans indeed." As he moved away, Lily couldn't help but notice how Dr. Winters watched him, her expression careful, controlled, and hiding something Lily couldn't quite decipher. But in that moment, she realized she wasn't the only one observing and evaluating. In this beautiful, strange place, everyone was watching someone. The days at Harmony Hills blurred together in a carefully orchestrated routine. Lily's schedule was filled with classes, not just in botany and traditional medicine as she had expected, but also in public speaking, theology, and what was called presence training, a strange combination of etiquette and performance coaching. Each evening concluded with a mandatory prayer service in the campus chapel, where Reverend Maxwell delivered passionate sermons about divine purpose and chosen vessels. 3 weeks into her stay, Lily had mapped the visible and invisible boundaries of her new life. Students were free to move about certain areas of the campus, but needed special permission for others. The greenhouse complex, which Lily had been eager to explore, remained frustratingly off-limits except during supervised classes. Phone calls home were allowed once a week, for exactly 15 minutes, from the administrative office where conversations could be easily overheard. She wrote letters to her family that felt increasingly hollow. How could she explain her growing unease when nothing explicitly wrong had happened? The food was excellent, the lessons interesting, her physical needs more than met. Yet beneath the polished surface of Harmony Hills, something felt fundamentally wrong. "You're not eating," Abigail observed one evening at dinner. In the short time they'd known each other, the girls had formed a tentative friendship, drawn together by their similar ages and outsider status among the older students. Lily pushed her untouched dessert around her plate, just thinking about home. Abigail glanced around before leaning closer. "It gets easier. After a while, you almost forget what it was like before." The resignation in her voice disturbed Lily more than any overt warning could have. "I don't want to forget." "Careful," Abigail murmured, her eyes flicking toward the staff table where Reverend Maxwell was deep in conversation with Elijah. "They don't like it when you get homesick. It shows resistance to your calling." Lily had learned that Elijah, the oldest student, held a special position within Harmony Hills. He had been there for 5 years and was being groomed as Reverend Maxwell's protégé, already delivering mini-sermons during some chapel services. The other students regarded him with a mixture of admiration and wariness. "What happens to people who resist?" Lily asked quietly. Abigail's usual cheerfulness dimmed. Counseling sessions, extra prayer meetings. Once a boy tried to run away, Jacob. He disappeared after that. They said his family requested he be transferred to a different program, but... She shrugged, leaving the sentence unfinished. That night, Lily couldn't sleep. She sat at her window watching the moonlight play across the manicured lawns, thinking about Jacob and wondering if he'd really been transferred or if something worse had happened. The idea that she might be trapped here made her chest tighten with panic. A movement outside caught her attention, a figure walking purposefully across the grounds toward the greenhouse complex. Even from a distance, Lily recognized Dr. Winter's distinctive gait. Curious, she watched as the doctor used a key card to enter a building that students were explicitly forbidden to approach. The next morning brought a disruption to the routine. Reverend Maxwell was leaving for a 3-day speaking engagement in Tennessee. Before his departure, he called Lily to his office, a command performance that sent her heart racing with anxiety. The Reverend's private office occupied the entire top floor of the administrative building, offering panoramic views of the surrounding mountains. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined the walls, filled with leather-bound volumes and artifacts from his worldwide travels. He sat behind an imposing desk, reviewing papers as Lily was ushered in. "Ah, our young healer," he said, looking up with the camera-ready smile that adorned his ministry's promotional materials. "Sit, please." Lily perched on the edge of a leather chair, hands folded in her lap as she'd been taught in presence training. "Your instructors speak highly of your progress," he began, consulting a tablet, "though there are some concerns about your integration." She swallowed. "Sir?" Community requires full participation, Lily. Not just physical presence, but spiritual and emotional investment. Dr. Winters notes that you hold yourself apart during group activities, that you've been spending time alone rather than building relationships with your peers. I'm still adjusting, she offered cautiously. The Reverend leaned forward, his cologne, something expensive and cloying, momentarily overwhelming. I understand homesickness. It's natural. But you must understand that you are here because God has chosen you for greater things than a simple life in Harper's Hollow. His eyes held hers, unblinking. Your gift with plants is just the beginning. With proper guidance, you could become a powerful voice in our ministry. Imagine reaching thousands with the natural healing methods your mother taught you, combined with the spiritual authority of our organization. The vision he painted was grand, but all Lily could think about was how he never blinked during these monologues, how his eyes remained fixed and evaluating, like a predator assessing potential prey. I'm honored, she said, the words feeling thick in her mouth. Good. He sat back, apparently satisfied. While I'm away, I've asked Elijah to mentor you. He'll join you for your afternoon sessions and prayer time. Listen to him. He was once like you, uncertain of his place here. Now he's poised to inherit a significant role in our organization. It wasn't a suggestion. It was an order, wrapped in spiritual language that made refusal impossible without seeming ungrateful or defiant. That afternoon, Elijah found her in the library where she was researching for a botany assignment. Unlike the Reverend's calculated charm, Elijah's confidence seemed genuine, the assurance of someone who had found their place in the world. The Reverend thinks you have potential, he said without preamble, sliding into the chair across from her. Because he doesn't say that about everyone. Lily marked her place in the book. What does that mean exactly? Elijah studied her for a moment. At 17, he was already developing the charismatic presence that made Reverend Maxwell so compelling to his followers. Tall, with carefully styled dark hair and intense eyes, he carried himself with the self-assurance of someone much older. It means you're being considered for the inner circle. The true ministry, not just the public-facing work. I'm 11, Lily pointed out. I don't want a ministry, I just want to learn about plants and go home. Something like pity crossed his face. That's not how this works. When the Reverend sees something in you, your old life is over. Accept that now and things will be easier. His candor, though disturbing, was refreshing after weeks of carefully scripted interactions. Is that what happened to you? I was 12 when I came here. My parents were struggling financially, just like yours. The Reverend offered them a way out, money, connections, stability, in exchange for allowing me to be developed here. His voice took on a bitter edge. By the time I realized what that really meant, it was too late. My family had become dependent on the stipend, moved into ministry housing, built their lives around the organization. And now, he shrugged. Now I'm valuable. I've learned to work the system to become what they wanted. In a few years, I'll have my own satellite ministry, my own followers, my own power. He leaned forward. That's the choice, Lily. Become valuable to them or become expendable. The bluntness of his warning left her speechless. Before she could respond, a staff member approached to remind them it was time for afternoon classes. As they walked down the corridor together, Elijah added in a low voice, "Watch Dr. Winters. She's not what she seems." The cryptic warning stayed with Lily throughout her afternoon class, where she struggled to focus on the lesson about medicinal fungi. When dismissed, instead of heading to the dining hall for dinner, she found herself walking toward the medical building where Dr. Winters had her office. The door was ajar, and through the gap, Lily could see Dr. Winters on the phone, her back to the entrance. Her voice was tense, urgent, nothing like her usual measured tones. "I'm telling you, it's getting worse. The Tennessee girl is only 13, for God's sake. No, I can't just walk away. There are children involved. Evidence takes time, and these families are too intimidated to speak up." Sensing movement, Dr. Winters turned, her eyes widening at the sight of Lily. "I have to go," she said abruptly into the phone before hanging up. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Dr. Winters sighed, gesturing Lily inside and closing the door behind her. "How much did you hear?" she asked, her professional demeanor cracking to reveal genuine concern. "Enough," Lily answered. "You're not really on his side, are you?" Dr. Winters ran a hand through her normally immaculate hair. "It's complicated. I came here believing in the educational mission. By the time I realized what was really happening, I was already in deep." She studied Lily intently. "You sense it too, don't you? That something isn't right here?" Lily nodded, relief flooding through her at having her suspicions confirmed by an adult. "The Reverend has a pattern," Dr. Winters continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "He finds talented children from vulnerable families, offers financial arrangements that create dependency. Then he grooms those children for various roles in his organization. Some, like Elijah, are shaped into future ministers. Others..." She hesitated. "Others serve different purposes." "What about me? Why am I here?" Dr. Winters' expression darkened. "Initially, I believe he was genuinely interested in your knowledge of traditional remedies. His wellness product line is a major source of revenue, and authentic expertise adds credibility." She paused. "But recently he's been talking about you differently, about your purity and natural presence." A cold feeling settled in Lily's stomach. "What does that mean?" "It means we need to get you out of here before he returns from Tennessee." Dr. Winters moved to her desk, unlocking a drawer and removing a small cell phone. "This isn't my area of expertise, but I've been documenting everything for months. Financial records, inappropriate interactions, the psychological manipulation techniques. I have a contact at the FBI who specializes in cases involving religious organizations and exploitation." She pressed the phone into Lily's hand. "Hide this. I've programmed my contact's number. If anything happens to me, call them immediately." Why would something happen to you?" Dr. Winters gave a grim smile. "Because I've been accessing restricted areas at night, because I've been copying files, because 3 other staff members who asked too many questions mysteriously received calls to minister elsewhere and disappeared." She squeezed Lily's shoulder. "But more importantly, I need you to get a message to your brother." Lily blinked in surprise. "Sam? How?" "Your scheduled call home is tomorrow. I'll be supervising instead of Ms. Parsons. You'll have privacy. But you need to be careful what you say. Calls are recorded. Tell your brother to check the hollow oak where you used to play. I've arranged for information to be left there." The dinner bell rang, startling them both. "Go," Dr. Winters urged. "Act normal. We'll talk more tomorrow." That night, as Lily lay awake planning what to say to Sam, she heard a soft knock at her door. Heart pounding, she slid the borrowed phone under her mattress before answering. It was Abigail, her face pale in the dim hallway light. "Can I come in, please?" Lily stepped aside, and the girl slipped into the room, her usual cheerfulness nowhere in evidence. "I saw you talking to Dr. Winters," Abigail whispered, "and then Elijah was asking where you were during dinner." "We were just discussing my progress," Lily said carefully. Abigail shook her head. "Don't lie to me, please. Not you too." Her voice cracked. "I heard things about Tennessee, about a girl my age." She twisted her hands together. "Is it true, what they're saying about the Reverend selecting a new special student?" Lily hesitated, unsure how much to reveal. "I don't know everything, but Dr. Winters thinks we might be in danger. She's trying to help. Jacob tried to warn me too before he disappeared." Abigail's eyes filled with tears. "He said the Reverend chooses favorites, brings them into his inner circle. Then something changes, and they're never the same." Lily felt a chill run down her spine. "What do you mean, never the same?" "Remember Megan, the girl who can predict weather patterns? She used to be different, louder, more rebellious. Then last year she became the Reverend's special project. After that she stopped talking, stopped connecting with anyone. She just obeys." Abigail hugged herself. "I'm scared, Lily. For you, for me, for all of us." The two girls sat in silence for a moment, the weight of their shared fear filling the space between them. Finally, Lily made a decision. Dr. Winters is planning something. Tomorrow I'm going to call my brother. If you want to leave too, we need to work together." Relief washed over Abigail's face. "I knew you were different. Since the first day, I could tell you wouldn't just accept everything like the others." They talked late into the night, sharing their observations and piecing together the disturbing patterns at Harmony Hills. By the time Abigail slipped back to her own room, a tentative plan had formed, one that depended on Sam, Dr. Winters, and their own courage to see it through. In the darkness, Lily clutched her mother's recipe book to her chest. Inside its pages, she had been pressing leaves and flowers from the Harmony Hills gardens, creating a physical connection to home and a reminder of who she really was. Tomorrow would be dangerous, but for the first time since arriving, she felt a flicker of hope, not just for escape, but for exposing the truth about what was happening behind the manicured facade of Harmony Hills. Morning arrived with an unexpected announcement. Reverend Maxwell would be returning early from his Tennessee trip. The news rippled through breakfast, changing the atmosphere from the usual quiet routine to something electric with tension. Staff members moved with heightened urgency, preparing for his arrival, while Elijah presided over the students' table with smug authority. "Change of plans," Dr. Winters whispered as she passed Lily in the hallway after breakfast. "Meeting in the East Garden greenhouse, 10 minutes. Bring nothing." Lily's scheduled call home wasn't until afternoon. Whatever Dr. Winters had planned was accelerating, driven by the Reverend's early return after dropping her books in her room. Lily made her way to the greenhouse complex, careful to appear casual despite her racing heart. The East Garden greenhouse was the smallest of the complex, used primarily for ornamental plants rather than the medicinal varieties grown in the larger facilities. Dr. Winters was already inside, examining a tray of orchids with scientific detachment when Lily entered. "We're being watched more closely today," the doctor said without looking up, her voice pitched just loud enough for Lily to hear. "Maxwell's returning with a potential donor, someone who needs to be impressed by the special students and their capabilities." "What does that mean for your plan?" Lily asked, pretending to inspect a nearby fern. "It means we accelerate. Your call home has been moved up, supposedly as a special privilege before the donor's arrival." Dr. Winters finally looked at her, eyes intense. "Listen carefully. When you speak to your family, you need to use the code phrase we discussed. But you must sound natural. If they flag your call, everything falls apart." Lily nodded, though her stomach clenched with anxiety. The agreed-upon phrase, "Tell Sam I found a new violet like the one behind Miller's Creek," would signal her brother to check the hollow oak immediately, not to wait. "After your call, there will be a special luncheon for the advanced students. The Reverend has requested your presence along with Elijah, Megan, and 2 others. This is unusual. He rarely showcases new students so quickly." "Why me?" Lily asked, the question that had been haunting her for weeks. Dr. Winters' expression darkened. "Because you fit a pattern. Young, impressionable, from a family with financial struggles, with a gift that can be commodified." She hesitated. "And because you possess a quality the Reverend values highly in his inner circle, what he calls natural purity." The implication made Lily feel suddenly cold, despite the greenhouse's humidity. "Abigail wants to leave too. I know, she's been on my watch list since her behavior changed last month." Dr. Winters checked her watch. "We don't have much time. Here's what happens next. Make your call. Attend the luncheon. Stay visible, but unremarkable. After dinner, there's a special prayer service for the donor. During that time, meet me at the south emergency exit. I'll have transportation waiting." "What about the security cameras?" "I've been working on that. For 15 minutes. Tonight there will be a system test that requires taking the cameras offline." She placed a gentle hand on Lily's shoulder. "You're very brave, you know. Most children in your position are too intimidated to question what's happening." The intercom system crackled to life, announcing that Lily Jenkins was requested at the SAR, her administrative office for her special call home. Dr. Winters nodded encouragingly. "Remember, natural but clear. Your brother needs to understand." The walk to the administrative building felt impossibly long. Lily rehearsed the code phrase in her mind, trying to imagine how she would normally mention such a thing in conversation with her family. By the time she reached the communication room, her palms were sweating. To her relief, Dr. Winters was there as promised, along with Ms. Parsons, the usual call supervisor. The doctor smoothly suggested that Ms. Parsons could take an early lunch break, offering to oversee the call herself. After a moment's hesitation, Ms. Parsons agreed, leaving them alone. "You have 12 minutes, Dr. Winters said, dialing the number. "Remember, the call is still being recorded. I'll be in the hallway watching for interruptions." The phone rang 3 times before her mother's voice answered, sounding both eager and worried. "Lily, honey, is that you?" The sound of her mother's voice nearly undid her composure. "Hi, Mama, yes, it's me." "Oh, sweetheart, we've been counting the days until your next call. How are you? Are they treating you well? Are you learning lots?" Lily swallowed the lump in her throat. "Yes, I'm learning a lot. The greenhouses here are amazing. They have plants from all over the world." They talked for a few minutes about classes and food and the new clothes she'd been given. Her mother shared news from home. The tobacco crop was doing better than expected. Sam had won a woodworking prize at the county fair. The new arrangement with the bank seemed to be holding. "Is Sam there?" Lily asked, when there was a natural pause. "I wanted to tell him something." "He's right here, eager to talk to you. Hold on." There was a rustling sound. Then Sam's voice came through, deep with emotion. "Hey, Lilypad." "Sam," she said, fighting to keep her voice steady. "You won't believe all the plants they have here. It made me think of our exploring days. Oh, and tell Mama I found a new violet, like the one behind Miller's Creek. Remember how we used to collect those?" There was the briefest hesitation before Sam responded, and Lily knew he'd registered. The unusualness of the reference. Miller's Creek was their special place, one they'd never mentioned to their parents. "I remember," he said carefully. "That's real nice, Lily. I'll have to check out that spot again soon." "Real soon," she emphasized, glancing at Dr. Winters, who gave her an approving nod from the doorway. The rest of the call passed in a blur of forced normalcy. When it was time to say goodbye, Lily found herself struggling to hang up, suddenly terrified that this might be the last time she heard their voices. "I love you all," she said, the words catching in her throat. "So much." "We love you too, sweetheart," her mother replied. "We're so proud of you." The click of the call ending felt like a physical pain. Dr. Winters returned to the room, quickly checking the call log and erasing something from the system. "Perfect," she said quietly. "Now for the luncheon. Remember, visible but unremarkable." The special luncheon was held in the Reverend's private dining room, an elegant space with views of the mountains and a table set with china and crystal that made Lily acutely aware of her every movement. Reverend Maxwell presided at the head of the table, with a silver-haired man introduced as Mr. Whitaker, the potential donor, seated at his right hand. Elijah, Megan, and 2 older students Lily didn't know well, a musical prodigy named Chloe, and a boy named Aidan, who apparently had photographic memory, completed the gathering. The adult staff, including Dr. Winters, stood against the wall ready to serve or respond to any request. "These are just a few of our exceptional students," Reverend Maxwell was explaining to Mr. Whitaker. "Each one specially selected for their God-given talents and potential to advance our ministry's vision." Mr. Whitaker nodded politely, though Lily thought she detected a certain skepticism in his expression. "And what exactly is that vision, Reverend?" "Beyond the public-facing wellness centers and television programs, the cultivation of divine vessels," the Reverend replied without hesitation. "Individuals who combine natural gifts with spiritual authority. The next generation of leaders who will carry traditional wisdom into the modern era." Throughout the meal, each student was called upon to demonstrate their special knowledge or skill. Elijah delivered a short, impassioned sermon on divine purpose. Megan correctly predicted the afternoon weather down to the minute rain would begin. Chloe played a complex piano piece from memory, and Aidan recited verbatim passages from books he'd been shown once, months ago. When it was Lily's turn, she found herself trembling slightly under the Reverend's expectant gaze. "Lily is our newest addition," he explained to Mr. Whitaker, A true natural healer with knowledge passed down through generations. Her pure intuition about plants and their properties is remarkable. He gestured to a tray of assorted herbs that had been placed before her. Lily, perhaps you could identify these specimens and explain their medicinal properties for Mr. Whitaker. It was a test she could pass easily. The plants were common varieties that her mother had taught her about years ago. As she spoke about each one, explaining how chamomile calmed the nervous system and how echinacea boosted immunity, she noticed Mr. Whitaker's interest sharpening. "Impressive," he said when she finished, "and all self-taught." "From my mother," Lily corrected gently. "She's known throughout our county for her healing knowledge. Yet she sent you here," Reverend Maxwell interjected smoothly, "recognizing that your gift needed proper development beyond what a small mountain community could provide." The deliberate mischaracterization of her family's situation made Lily's chest tighten with anger, but she kept her expression neutral, remembering Dr. Winter's warning to remain unremarkable. After the luncheon, the students were dismissed, while the adults continued their discussions. In the hallway outside, Elijah fell into step beside Lily. "You did well in there," he said, his voice low. The Reverend was pleased. "What happens now?" she asked, genuinely curious about the next stage in the Reverend's process. Elijah's expression was unreadable. "Now, if he follows his usual pattern, you'll be invited to join evening prayers in his private chapel. That's when he explains your true purpose and the special role he envisions for you." His voice took on a bitter edge. "Just don't drink the tea they offer beforehand. It makes you compliant." Before Lily could respond, a staff member approached to inform them that afternoon classes were cancelled. Instead, all students were to prepare for the evening's special prayer service in honor of Mr. Whitaker's visit. "Opportunity," Elijah whispered as they parted ways, "or trap. Choose carefully, Lily Jenkins." The cryptic warning stayed with her as she returned to her room, where she found Abigail waiting anxiously. "Well," the older girl demanded, "did you talk to your brother? Is Dr. Winter's plan still on?" Lily nodded, quickly filling her in on the accelerated timeline. "We meet at the south exit after dinner, before the prayer service. Dr. Winters will have transportation." "Waiting? What about the others?" Abigail asked. "Shouldn't we warn them too?" The question gave Lily pause. She had been so focused on her own escape that she hadn't fully considered the other children at Harmony Hills. What would happen to them if the truth about the Reverend came to light? Would their families welcome them back, or had they, like Elijah's parents, become too dependent on the organization? "I don't know who we can trust," Lily admitted. "Elijah knows something's happening, but I can't tell if he's helping or hindering." "We can't save everyone," Abigail said pragmatically. "But maybe once we're out with Dr. Winter's evidence, the authorities will shut this place down." As the afternoon progressed, an atmosphere of anticipation built throughout Harmony Hills. Staff members hurried to prepare the main chapel, while students were instructed to wear their formal attire for the evening service. Beneath the visible activities, Lily sensed a current of tension among the adult staff, whispered conversations that stopped when students approached, meaningful glances exchanged during dinner. Dr. Winters was conspicuously absent from the dining hall, a fact that sent a spike of anxiety through Lily. Had something gone wrong? Had their plan been discovered? After the meal, as students dispersed to prepare for the service, Lily and Abigail made their way toward the south wing, moving casually despite their racing hearts. "There's still time to change your mind," Lily offered, knowing the risk Abigail was taking by joining her. "No going back," Abigail replied with quiet determination. "Not after what I've seen here." They were halfway to the meeting point when Elijah stepped out from a side corridor, blocking their path. "I wondered if you'd try something tonight," he said, his expression unreadable. With the Reverend focused on Whitaker and the security systems conveniently scheduled for maintenance, Lily froze, her mind racing. How much did he know? Was he going to stop them? Alert security? "Move aside, Elijah," Abigail said, her voice surprisingly steady. "This doesn't concern you, doesn't it?" He laughed without humor. "Everything that happens at Harmony Hills concerns me. I'm the Reverend's right hand, his chosen successor, his legacy. Then you know what he really does, Lily said quietly. What happens to the special students? Something flickered in Elijah's eyes, pain perhaps or regret. I know because I was one of them. For a long moment, the three stood in tense silence, the distant sounds of preparation for the prayer service, a reminder of how little time they had left. Then, unexpectedly, Elijah stepped aside. South exit is being watched. Take the service. Corridor through the kitchen, then the staff door by the loading dock. Dr. Winters is waiting in a blue sedan. Lily stared at him in confusion. You're helping us? I'm helping myself, he corrected. When this place finally falls, and it will, I want to be remembered as something other than his puppet. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a USB drive. Give this to whoever comes for you. It's everything I've been documenting for the past year. Before either girl could respond, the chapel bells began to ring, signaling 15 minutes until the service. Elijah's expression hardened. Go now before I change my mind. They didn't need to be told twice. As they hurried away, Lily glanced back once to see Elijah watching them, his face a mask of complex emotions, the boy who had been shaped by the system now playing a role in its potential downfall. The kitchen was a flurry of activity, staff preparing refreshments for after the service. Using the commotion as cover, Lily and Abigail slipped through to the service corridor, hearts pounding with each step that took them closer to freedom. As promised, the staff door by the loading dock was unguarded. Beyond it, in the gathering dusk, a blue sedan waited with its engine running, Dr. Winters at the wheel. Quickly, she urged as they approached, throwing open the rear doors. They were halfway to the car when floodlights suddenly illuminated the area, temporarily blinding them. From somewhere behind, a voice called out, "That's far enough, Dr. Winters." Lily froze, instinctively stepping in front of Abigail as she squinted against the harsh light. Reverend Maxwell stood on the loading dock, flanked by security personnel. His usual polished appearance was slightly disheveled, as if he'd left the preparations for the prayer service in haste. "I must admit I'm disappointed," he said, his voice carrying across the parking area. "After all we've provided, all the opportunities offered." Dr. Winters moved forward, positioning herself between the girls and the Reverend. "It's over, James. The authorities already have copies of my evidence. If anything happens to us, it only strengthens their case." A flicker of uncertainty crossed the Reverend's face before his confident mask returned. "Evidence of what exactly? A prestigious educational program for gifted children? Spiritual guidance for receptive young minds? Financial assistance for struggling families?" He spread his hands in a gesture of innocence. "Nothing illegal about any of that." "We both know it goes far beyond that," Dr. Winters countered. "The psychological manipulation, the isolation, the grooming of vulnerable children for your special projects." The tense standoff was interrupted by the sound of tires on gravel as another vehicle approached, a pickup truck that Lily recognized immediately. It skidded to a halt beside Dr. Winters' sedan, and Sam leapt out, followed by their father. "Lily!" Sam called, relief and fear mingling in his voice. Reverend Maxwell's expression darkened. "Mr. Jenkins, this is a private matter concerning your daughter's education." Thomas Jenkins stepped forward, his weathered face set in determination. "No, sir. This is about my child, and from what we've been hearing, you've got some explaining to do." Behind them, more headlights appeared. 2 police cruisers and an unmarked black SUV turning into the long driveway of Harmony Hills. "Right on time," Dr. Winters murmured, a smile of fierce satisfaction crossing her face. The Reverend's composure slipped momentarily as he realized the situation was spiraling beyond his control. "This is absurd. We're a respected religious organization with powerful supporters. Whatever she's told you," he gestured dismissively at Dr. Winters, "it's the bitter fabrication of a disgruntled employee." One of the security guards leaned in to whisper something in the Reverend's ear, likely reporting on the approaching vehicles. His expression shifted from outrage to calculation. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, smoothly adopting his pulpit voice, There seems to be a misunderstanding. I was simply concerned about Dr. Winters removing students from campus without proper authorization. In fact, I was about to suggest we all go to my office to discuss whatever concerns have arisen. No more private conversations, Thomas Jenkins stated firmly. No more secrets. As the police cruisers pulled up, Lily finally broke from her frozen state, running to her father and brother. Sam caught her in a fierce hug, his familiar presence a fortress of safety after weeks of uncertainty. "You okay, Lily Pad?" he whispered, voice thick with emotion. She nodded against his shoulder, tears threatening. "You got my message." Clear as day, he confirmed. Dr. Winters' information was waiting right where she said it would be. After I read it, I called that FBI number, then went straight to PAR. What followed was a blur of activity. FBI agents, led by a no-nonsense woman who introduced herself as Special Agent Reeves, took control of the situation with practiced efficiency. Staff and students were gathered in the main hall for questioning. Documents were collected, computers seized. Reverend Maxwell maintained his innocence, his charisma now directed at the federal agents as he painted himself as a misunderstood visionary being persecuted for his faith. But the evidence was mounting. Not just Dr. Winters' documentation and Elijah's USB drive, but also testimony from former staff members who had been contacted by the FBI in the weeks leading up to this night. In a quiet corner of the administration building, Lily sat with her father and brother while providing her statement to Agent Reeves. Across the room, Abigail was reunited with parents who looked shell-shocked, as if they were seeing their daughter clearly for the first time in years. "You've been very brave," Agent Reeves told Lily when they finished. "Your testimony, combined with the evidence Dr. Winters and others have provided, will be crucial in building our case." "What will happen to the other students?" Lily asked, thinking of Megan, Chloe, Aiden, and the others who had been at Harmony Hills longer than she had. "They'll be returned to their families with support services to help them readjust," Agent Reeves explained. "For some, that process may be complicated by how deeply involved their families became with the organization. But we have specialists for these situations." "And the Reverend?" Thomas Jenkins asked, his arm protectively around Lily's shoulders. "Agent," Reeves's expression hardened. "If the evidence supports our suspicions, and I believe it will, he'll face serious charges. Financial fraud at minimum, potentially much worse depending on what we uncover about his special projects." As dawn broke over the mountains, casting long shadows across the once pristine grounds of Harmony Hills, Lily sat in the back of her father's pickup, watching the ongoing activity, with a surreal sense of detachment. The past 12 hours had transformed the secluded campus into a law enforcement command center, with agents coming and going, statements being taken, evidence documented. Dr. Winters approached, looking exhausted but triumphant. "Your family can take you home now," she said gently. "The agents have everything they need from you for the moment." Lily nodded, suddenly eager to leave this place behind. "What about you?" "I'll be working with the investigation team for a while longer," Dr. Winters replied. "There's still much to unravel about the full scope of the Reverend's operation." "Thank you," Lily said simply, "for believing me, for helping us." Dr. Winters smiled, a genuine expression that softened the weariness in her eyes. "You helped yourself, Lily. Your courage, your clear-sightedness, those are rare qualities that the Reverend tried to exploit, but ultimately couldn't control." As they prepared to leave, Elijah approached their truck, his confident demeanor replaced by something more vulnerable. The Reverend's protégé looked lost without his mentor, his carefully constructed identity beginning to crumble. "They're placing me with a temporary guardian," he told Lily, hands shoved deep in his pockets, "until they figure out what to do with me. My parents." He trailed off, the complicated reality of his situation hanging unspoken between them. "You did the right thing," she said, offering what comfort she could, "helping us, giving them your evidence." He shrugged, but she could see her words had reached him. "Maybe, or maybe I just picked the winning side at the last minute." A ghost of his old smirk appeared. "Either way, the kingdom falls." "Not falls," Lily corrected gently, changes, heals. The drive back to Harper's Hollow was quiet, each family member processing the events in their own way. The familiar landscape rolled by, mountains and forests untouched by the human drama that had just unfolded. Lily watched it all with new eyes, appreciating the simple beauty of home in a way she never had before. Martha Jenkins was waiting, on the porch when they arrived, rushing down the steps to envelop Lily in a tearful embrace. "My baby," she kept saying, smoothing Lily's hair. "My precious girl." Later, after the initial emotions had settled and the practical matters of her return had been addressed, Lily sat with her mother at the kitchen table, their hands working together to sort through fresh herbs from the garden. "I should never have agreed to it," Martha said softly, regret heavy in her voice. "No matter how bad things were with the farm, no matter what he promised." "You didn't know," Lily assured her. "None of us knew what was really happening there." "But you sensed it," her mother noted. "From the beginning you felt something wasn't right." Lily nodded, carefully separating mint leaves from their stems. "The way he looked at people, not as people, but as things to use, tools for his purposes. They worked in companionable silence for a while, falling back into their old rhythm as if Lily had never been away. The familiar sense of home, wood smoke, herbs, her mother's lavender soap, gradually replaced the lingering memory of Harmony Hills' sterile perfection. "The FBI agent called while you were freshening up," Martha eventually said. "They found evidence of similar situations at 3 other retreat centers run by the Reverend's organization. Girls your age, vulnerable families. It's bigger than anyone realized." The news settled heavily on Lily's shoulders. How many others had experienced what she had narrowly escaped? How many had not been fortunate enough to have a Dr. Winters or an Elijah to help them? They also said that because of your bravery, because you spoke up, many other children will be protected, Martha continued, her voice strengthening with pride. "You've done something important, Lily, something that matters." In the weeks that followed, life in Harper's Hollow adjusted to a new normal. The financial situation remained precarious. The Reverend's organization had stopped payments to the Jenkins family after his arrest, but community support and a successful harvest season provided some breathing room. The FBI kept them updated on the case, which grew more extensive as investigations uncovered the full scope of the Reverend's operations. Abigail came to visit, accompanied by her parents who were working with therapists to rebuild their family bonds. The girls spent long hours by the creek, sharing experiences and processing what they had been through. Their friendship, forged in the crucible of Harmony Hills, blossomed in the freedom of Harper's Hollow. Lily resumed her education at the local school, but her passion for herbal medicine only deepened. With her mother's guidance, she began developing her own remedies, incorporating both traditional knowledge and scientifically validated approaches. Word spread about the young healers. Skills and people from neighboring communities began seeking her assistance for minor ailments. One crisp autumn day, as Lily worked in the garden behind their cabin, Agent Reeves paid an unexpected visit. The FBI agent looked different in casual clothes, more approachable without the formal suit and official demeanor. "I wanted to give you this in person," she said, handing Lily an envelope. "The preliminary hearing is scheduled for next month. The prosecutor believes your testimony will be crucial, but they're arranging for you to provide it via video so you don't have to face the Reverend in court." Lily nodded gratefully, taking the envelope. "Will it be enough to stop him for good?" "The evidence is overwhelming," Agent Reeves assured her. "His operation is dismantled, his assets frozen. Even if he somehow avoids the most serious charges, he'll never be in a position to harm children again." She paused, studying Lily thoughtfully. "You know, we have a victim advocacy program that might interest you, when you're older, of course. People who've been through experiences like yours, helping others heal and rebuild." The idea took root in Lily's mind, a possible future path she hadn't considered before. After Agent Reeves departed, Lily opened the envelope to find a formal letter of thanks from the FBI's Crimes Against Children unit, along with newspaper clippings documenting the case's development. The most recent headline read, "Religious Leader's Empire Crumbles as Allegations Mount." Sam found her still reading through the materials as dusk fell. "You okay?" She nodded, carefully folding the papers back into the envelope. "Just thinking about how different things could have been. If Dr. Winters hadn't helped us, if Elijah hadn't changed sides, if you hadn't understood my message." "But we did," Sam said simply, sitting beside her on the porch steps. "That's what family does. We listen for the things not being said. We hear the truth beneath the words." Together they watched as fireflies began to emerge in the gathering darkness, their intermittent lights a silent communication across the yard. In the distance, the mountains stood unchanged, a reminder that some things endured beyond human troubles. That night, Lily dreamed of Harmony Hills, not as it had been, but transformed. In her dream, the manicured lawns were replaced with wildflower meadows. The sterile classrooms became open-air learning spaces. Children moved freely, their gifts nurtured without exploitation, their voices valued rather than silenced. She woke with the clarity of purpose that sometimes comes through dreams. At breakfast, she announced her intention to start a junior herbalist program for local children, teaching them the knowledge her mother had passed to her. "Are you sure you're ready for that?" Thomas asked, concern in his voice. "After everything that's happened?" Lily considered the question carefully before answering. "What the Reverend did, trying to use my knowledge for his benefit, trying to control how and when I shared it, that was wrong. But the knowledge itself is valuable. It should be shared, not hoarded or exploited." Martha reached across the table to squeeze her daughter's hand. "You always did understand the heart of things, even as a little girl." The first meeting of what Lily called the Wildflower Circle took place on a Saturday morning in late October. 8 children from Harper's Hollow and neighboring communities gathered in the Jenkins yard, eager to learn about the plants that grew wild in their mountains. As Lily led them through basic identification exercises, sharing stories of each plant's properties and history, she felt a sense of rightness, of reclaiming something that had nearly been taken from her and transforming it into something that could help others. One little girl, barely 7 years old, listened with particular intensity, her eyes bright with intelligence and curiosity. She reminded Lily of herself at that age, fascinated by the hidden properties of things that others overlooked. "You know," Lily told her as they examined a cluster of yarrow, "plants teach us something important. They bloom where they're planted, even in difficult conditions, but they also know how to spread their seeds to ensure their knowledge and beauty continue beyond themselves." The child nodded solemnly, absorbing the lesson on multiple levels as children often do. That evening, as the family sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the mountains in shades of gold and purple, Lily felt a deep contentment settle in her bones. The Reverend had sought to uproot her, to transplant her into his artificial paradise, to shape her into something that served his purposes. Instead, she had found her way back to her true soil, to the place and people who nurtured her authentic growth. "What are you thinking about, looking so philosophical over there?" Sam teased, nudging her shoulder. Lily smiled, turning her face to catch the last warm rays of sunlight. "Just that some things can't be contained. Not really, not if they're meant to grow wild." In the garden behind them, the herbs her mother had planted decades ago continued their quiet work, healing, nourishing, persisting through seasons of both hardship and abundance. Lily knew now that she was like those plants, resilient, useful, and determined to thrive not despite her experiences, but because of them. And in the years that followed, as her reputation as a healer grew and her advocacy work for vulnerable children expanded, Lily Jenkins would often return to that simple truth, that even after the harshest winter, seeds somehow find the strength to push through soil toward sunlight. That sometimes the most beautiful blooms emerge from the most difficult circumstances, and that when voices join together, even the whisper of a child can become powerful enough to topple empires built on silence. Epilogue. 15 years later, a modest building stood on what had once been the east field of the Jenkins farm. A hand-carved sign above the door read, "Wildflower Wellness Center," and below it in smaller letters, honoring traditional knowledge, protecting future generations. Inside, Dr. Lily Jenkins, who had indeed pursued her education beyond what anyone in Harper's Hollow had previously achieved, welcomed students from across the country who came to learn ethical approaches to herbal medicine and natural healing. The center combined research, education, and community outreach with a special program for children from disadvantaged backgrounds. On this particular afternoon, as golden light streamed through windows framed by climbing medicinal vines, Lily was leading a seminar on ethical harvesting practices when her assistant interrupted with news of a visitor. In the reception area stood Abigail, now a poised young woman, whose work with the FBI's victim advocacy program had helped countless children navigate experiences similar to what they had endured. Their friendship had endured through college, career paths, and life changes. "I thought you were in Washington this week," Lily said, embracing her old friend. Abigail smiled. "I was, but I wanted to deliver this in person." She handed Lily an official-looking envelope. "It's finally over." The appeal was denied. He'll remain behind bars for the full sentence. The news brought a complex wave of emotions: relief, vindication, and a final sense of closure. The Reverend's legal battles had dragged on for years, with expensive lawyers exploiting every loophole, every technicality. But now, finally, justice had prevailed in its entirety. "There's more," Abigail continued. "The last of his assets have been liquidated. The victim's compensation fund is fully funded, and Harmony Hills." She paused for dramatic effect. "The property has been awarded to your foundation." Lily stared in disbelief. "My foundation? But why?" "The judge felt it was fitting. The place where he sought to silence you will now amplify the voices of those like us." Abigail squeezed her hand. "What will you do with it?" The question hung in the air, full of possibility. Lily thought of her dream from years ago, Harmony Hills transformed into a place of genuine healing and empowerment. "We'll remake it," she said finally. "A summer camp for kids who've been through trauma, a training center for ethical healers, a sanctuary where the truth is valued above all else." Later that evening, as she shared the news with her family over dinner, Sam, now running the farm with sustainable methods that had restored its prosperity, raised his glass in a toast. "To my little sister, who turned poison into medicine." Their parents, grey-haired but still vital, beamed with pride. Thomas, who had once made a desperate decision out of fear for his family's future, had become an advocate in his own right, speaking to rural communities about recognizing signs of exploitation. Martha continued teaching traditional healing alongside her daughter, their knowledge now documented in a series of respected publications. As night fell over the mountains, Lily stepped onto the porch of the home she had never truly left. The same stars that had witnessed her journey now shone down on a landscape transformed not just by time, but by purpose. The path that had once led towards silence now amplified countless voices. The knowledge that had nearly been exploited now empowered generations. In the garden, a special section was dedicated to plants rescued from Harmony Hills during its transition, living witnesses to the transformation of a place once defined by control into a sanctuary of healing. Among them, a particular herb thrived, rue, the ancient symbol of regret transformed into resilience. Lily smiled as she identified its silhouette in the moonlight. Some might see only a common plant, but she knew better. Within its ordinary appearance lay extraordinary strength, the power to heal, the power to endure, and most importantly, the power to transform what was broken into something whole again. Fimda Historia. Cue gentle acoustic guitar music as the narrator's voice returns. Dear listeners, we hope you've been moved by Lily's journey from vulnerability to empowerment. For more inspiring stories like this one, we've created a special playlist with equally captivating narratives about resilience and transformation. Find it by clicking the link on your left. If Lily's story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a thumbs up. Every day we bring you unique stories that explore the complexity of human experience and the triumph of the human spirit. What did you think about Lily's choice to transform her painful past into a foundation for helping others? Do you believe that our greatest challenges can become our greatest gifts? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one and would love to hear your perspective. Until our next story, remember that like Lily, we all have the power to bloom wherever we're planted, even in the most challenging circumstances. Music fades,